Hello friends, welcome to lesson 46, Environmental Sustainability of Smart Cities, Contemporary Relevance of Garden City Movement, Part A. Objectives. After completion of this lesson, you will be able to understand about sustainable and smart cities. You will be able to analyze the Indian experience regarding the smart cities and also explain the concept of garden cities. Let us begin with the introduction. United Nations has envisioned 17 Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) with the aim of building and shaping a more prosperous, equal and secure world by the year 2030. The 17 SDGs and 169 targets are part of 2030 agenda for the sustainable development adopted by 193 member states at United Nations General Assembly Summit in September 2015. This came into effect on 1st January 2016. The 11th Sustainable Development Goal is Sustainable Cities and Communities. By 2030, it is estimated that 6 out of 10 people will be city dwellers, and by 2030, the world will have 43 mega cities with more than 10 million inhabitants each. Most of them will be in developing regions. These estimates bring into forefront the significance of cities with specific reference to the environmental sustainability. Let us now try to understand about sustainable and smart cities. We all know that cities are engines for sustainable development, since in urban centers, ideas, trade and commerce, culture, science, technology and economic productivity prospers. Urban spaces offer prospects to prosper economically and socially, but this is only possible in thriving and flourishing cities. Cities provide job opportunities and platform to grow and develop. On the other hand, urban areas are also emitters of greenhouse gases and contribute to climate change. According to the World Health Organization, half of the global urban population breathes air that is 2.5 times more polluted than the accepted standards. Such poor air quality index is a major challenge to the environmental sustainability of the cities. In fact, Honorable Supreme Court of India also has made an observation in this regard. These challenges to urban spaces can be overcome by improving resource use and focusing on reducing pollution and poverty. Sustainable cities should be able to offer opportunities for all and which provide access to basic services, energy, housing, transportation and more. Cities should optimize efficiency by reducing energy consumption and adopting the green energy systems. For instance, Rizhao, China has become a solar powered city. In its central districts, 99% of the households already use solar water heaters to a great extent. Smart and sustainable cities should provide and focus on clean and green environment, career and business opportunities, public transport, creating green public spaces, safe and affordable housing, building resilient societies and improving urban planning and management in participatory and inclusive ways. However, there are serious challenges in meeting the production and consumption needs of the urban populations for food, energy, water and transport. This is also influencing rural and urban ecosystems to a great extent, both locally as well as globally. There is no denial of the fact that cities are expanding physically, which is compromising the provision of ecosystem services which are vital to cities, like clean air, providing water catchment integrity, helping to control storm water and conserving energy. Ecosystem is also based on urban planning governance and services like water, sanitation and transport and land markets. There is also need to address gender and inclusion and promote equal opportunities to achieve greater social, economic and also environmental benefits. It has been suggested that the building of a green city is equivalent to the building of sustainability. This we find in several references, including that of Bentley, published in 2012. The 1987 report of the World Commission on Environment and Development, which is also known as the Brundtland Commission, defines sustainable development as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. The report included a chapter on urban issues. In 1991, the United Nations Center for Human Settlements UNCHS Sustainable Cities Program attempted to define a sustainable city as one where achievements in social, economic and physical development are made to last. This is also part of the United Nations Human Settlements Program report published in 2002. The concept of sustainable cities and its links with sustainable development have been discussed since early 1990s. It has been asserted by environmentalists that sustainable cities should meet the development needs of its inhabitants without imposing unsustainable demands on local or global natural resources and systems. The concept of sustainable city was reflected in the 1992 Rio de Janeiro Conference on Environment and Development, which was attended by more than 178 governments across the world. The 1992 Rio Declaration integrated various dimensions like economic, social, environmental and governance. It firmly argued for the eradication of unsustainable patterns of production and consumption, the eradication of poverty and the role of the state, civil society and international community in protecting the environment. Another outcome of the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development was Agenda 21, which aimed at preparing the world for the challenges of the 21st century. Agenda 21, which was built upon at subsequent United Nations conferences, defined sustainability in the context of economic, social, environmental and governance issues, noting the decisive role of authorities and civil society at local, national and international levels for the implementation of sustainable development policies. The Habitat Agenda, adopted by United Nations Conference on Human Settlements, which is also called as Habitat 2, held in Istanbul in June 1996, reverberated the concerns expressed in Agenda 21 with respect to the multidimensionality of the development and discussed urban sustainability as requiring a harmonious integration of economic, social and environmental issues. At this summit, nations reported on the progress towards achieving the sustainability of their cities. Yet, this agenda still needed to include climate change as one of the main threats to building sustainable cities and to development. We find several references in United Nations websites and also the related courses, related programs also. In an increasingly urbanized world which demands more sustainable ways of living, urban governance entails the fostering of urban planning and environmental management, which includes the reduction of ecological footprints and also the decentralization of decision making and resource allocation, as well as enhanced policy coordination between local and national authorities. In this context, achieving the sustainability of cities can be conceived as entailing the integration of four pillars. What are they? Social development, economic development, environmental management, and also urban governance. The ways in which a city can build sustainability will reflect its capacity to adapt within the context of its history for the policy priorities and goals defined by each of these pillars. Let us now try to understand what is the Indian experience in this context. India is a member of United Nations and has adopted the Sustainable Development Goals. It is interesting to note that between 2001 and 2011, the country's urban population had increased by 91 million. It is projected that 416 million urban dwellers will be added between 2018 and 2050. By 2030, India is expected to be home to 7 mega cities with population above 10 million. To address the various challenges due to urbanization and also to ensure sustainable cities and communities and to accelerate the socio-economic development of cities, the Government of India has initiated several policies. For instance, initiatives such as Smart Cities Mission, the Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewal Mission, which is also known as JNNURM, and the Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation, known as AMRIT, are working to address the challenges of improving urban spaces. The Prime Minister's Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, which aimed to achieve housing for all by 2022, also has been extended. The SDGs 2030 about India, sustainable cities and communities include reducing the adverse per capita environmental impact of cities, including by paying special attention to air quality, municipal and other waste management, to provide universal access to safe, inclusive and accessible green and public spaces, in particular for women and children, older persons and persons with disabilities. In fact, the Smart Cities Mission is in consonance with the 11th Sustainable Development Goal, which focuses on sustainable cities and communities. Smart cities seek to enhance the quality of living for its citizens through smart technology. They aspire to integrate information and communication technologies (ICT) to enhance and enrich the quality and performance of urban services such as energy, transportation and utilities in order to reduce the resource consumption, wastage and overall costs. In previous two lessons, we had a very interesting discussion on artificial intelligence. Some of the significant features of smart cities as envisaged in Smart Cities Mission of Government of India include creating walkable localities, reduce the congestion air pollution, and also resource depletion, boost the local economy to a great extent, promote interactions and ensure security. The road network is created or refurbished not only for vehicles and public transport but also for pedestrians and cyclists, and necessary administrative services are offered within walking or cycling distance, preserving and developing open spaces, parks, playgrounds and recreation spaces in order to enhance the quality of life of citizens, reduce the urban heat effects in areas and generally promote the eco balance also to a great extent. Now let us discuss about the concept of garden cities. Several innovations are taking place in the direction of making cities environmentally sustainable. In this context, this particular lesson argues that taking cues from Sir Ebenezer Howard's concept of garden cities, some of the environmental concerns of smart cities can be addressed. Howard published Garden Cities of Tomorrow in the year 1898, the description of a utopian city in which people live harmoniously together with nature. The publication resulted in the founding of the Garden City movement that led to establishment of several garden cities in Great Britain at the beginning of the 20th century. The notion of a garden city is not new. In fact, the images of hanging gardens of Babylon come in the forefront. The introduction of heavily planted cities has tried to capture the impressive nature of constructed urban density and scale, but soften it into a picture of a natural landscape. The planted landscapes with clean water, air and less noise reflect the attractiveness of the imagery where both rural and urban worlds are present simultaneously. Howard created the concept of a garden city under the influence of geographer Peter Alexievich Kropotkin's and economist Alfred Marshall's idea. At the end of the 19th and early 20th centuries, Kropotkin predicted the impact of electricity and the development of communication technology on decentralization in urban areas, and that urban residents would enjoy both rural and urban lifestyles at the same time. On the other hand, Marshall has initiated the planned construction of new cities to slow down the increase in social costs caused by the industry concentration in cities. Howard used their ideas and proposed the establishment of a new city type to remove or to reduce the differences between rural and urban settlements. Hence, the idea of a garden city has arisen at a time of urban identity, uncontrolled urban growth and expansion, as well as weak or broken links with its surroundings. The main features of the Howard scheme were, firstly, the purchase of a large area of agricultural land within a ring fence. Secondly, the planning of a compact town surrounded by wide rural belt. Thirdly, the accommodation of residents, industry and agriculture within the town, followed by the limitation of the extent of the town and prevention of encroachment upon the rural belt. And fifthly, the natural rise in land values to be used for the town's own general welfare. The garden city concept was developed at the beginning of 20th century as a solution to difficult social problems and challenges like overpopulation, devastating hygienic conditions and in general the dehumanizing living for most inhabitants in big industrial cities. Howard proposed urban planning of the self-contained settlements that would have the advantages of both urban and rural lifestyles while reducing and eliminating their disadvantages. Howard also founded the Garden City Association 1899, which actively promoted the concept by emphasizing the need for well-designed houses for all classes built in a human scale environment, the ways to empower people and communities to participate in decisions related to their quality of life, and the ways to improve urban planning based on the sustainable development. Thus, from the outset, the concept closely intertwined the principles of social welfare and urban planning simultaneously. Howard had no training in urban planning or design. Nevertheless, he excelled in creating a place which he called magnets, where people would want to come to reside and work. Garden cities were planned, contained communities surrounded by a green belt or the parks encompassing proportionate areas of residences and industry and also agriculture. Garden city movement aimed at addressing the urban problems plaguing the industrial city of that time. Garden city concept was an effective response for a better quality of life in overcrowded and dirty industrial towns which had deteriorated the environment and posed serious threat to health. The Garden City movement had the three magnets to address the question, where will the people go? The choices being town, country or combination of town country. Howard hoped that a town built according to Garden City concept would be the third magnet that would attract most of the unhappy inhabitants of congested and industrial British cities and thus resolve one of the major national problems of that time. Town. The pull of town magnet are the opportunities for work and high wages, social opportunities, amusements and well-lit streets. It has closing out of nature, offered isolation of crowds and distance from work. It came at a cost of foul air, costly drainage, murky sky and slums. When it comes to country, it offered natural beauty, low rents, fresh air, meadow, but had low wages and lack of drainage. Country has dullness, lack of society, low wages, lack of amusements and general decay. Positive and negative aspects of town include beauty of nature, lack of society, land lying idle, hands out of work, wood, meadow, forest, trespassers, beware, fresh air, low wages, low rents, lack of drainage, abundance of water, lack of amusement, bright sunshine but no public spirit and the need for reform, crowded dwellings and deserted villages. When it comes to town country, it was a combination of both town and countryside with aim of providing benefits of both and offered beauty of nature, social opportunity, fields of easy access, low rent, high wages and field of enterprise. Thus, the solution was found in the combination of the advantages of town and country. The town country magnet, it was proposed a town in the country and having within it the amenities of natural beauty, fresh air and healthfulness. Thus, the advantages of the town country are seen to be free from the disadvantages of either. The positive and negative aspects of town include social opportunity, closing out of nature, isolation of crowds, high rents and prices, places of amusement, foul air and murky sky, chances of employment, slums and gin palaces, high money wages, costly drainage, well-lit streets and palatial edifices. Howard suggested that an ideal garden city is a compact town of 6,000 acres, 5,000 of which is permanently reserved for agriculture. It accommodates a maximum population of 32,000 with parks and private lawn everywhere. The roads are radial, wide, ranging from 120 to 420 feet for the Grand Avenue. Within the town, functional zoning is present with clearly differentiated spatial zones like residential, commercial, industrial and public uses. The other aspects are unified land ownership and cooperatives with no individual ownership of land. Local community also participated in the decision making regarding the development. After a city reaches its target population, new interconnected nodes can be developed. The garden city will grow by establishing another city some little distance beyond its own zone of country, so that the new town may have a zone of country of its own. Howard believed that all people agreed the overcrowding and deterioration of cities was one of the troubling issues of their time and also the present time. It is important to understand the context to which Howard's work was a reaction. London and the other cities in the 19th century were in the throes of industrialization, and cities were exerting massive forces on the labor markets of those times. Massive immigration from the countryside to the cities was taking place within London. This situation was unsustainable, and political commentators of all parties sought how best to provide the proper antidote against the greatest danger of modern existence. To Howard, the cure was simple: to reintegrate people with countryside. The main components of the Howard's Garden City movement include some of these aspects: planned dispersal and control, the organized outward migration of industries and people to towns of sufficient size to provide the services, variety of occupations and level of culture needed by a balanced cross section of modern society. Pre-planning of the whole town framework, including the road scheme and also the functional zoning, the fixing of maximum densities, the control of building as to quality and design, but allowing for individual variety and skillful planting and landscape garden design. Another aspect is town size and sustainability. The growth of towns to be limited in order that their inhabitants may live near work, shops, social centers and each other, and also near open country. One of the primary principles of a garden city is self-sustainability. The city should be able to meet its inhabitants' essential needs without relying heavily on external resources. This involves carefully planning the distribution of the residential, commercial and agricultural zones to create a balanced ecosystem within the city. When it comes to amenities, the internal texture of towns to be open enough to permit of houses with private gardens, adequate space for schools and other functional purposes, and pleasant parks and parkways. Town and country relationship. The town area to be defined and a large area around it reserved permanently for agriculture, thus enabling the farm people to be assured of a nearby market and cultural center, and the town people to have the benefit of a country situation. Housing and neighborhoods. To create a socially diverse community, garden cities promote a mix of housing types. This includes affordable housing options alongside more luxurious residences, ensuring that people from various economic backgrounds can coexist harmoniously. The town to be divided into wards, each to some extent a developmental and a social entity. Two garden cities were built using Howard's Garden City movement concept, which are Letchworth Garden City and Welwyn Garden City, both in Hertfordshire, England. Now let us briefly understand about Letchworth Garden City. The first garden city, developed in 1903 by Barry Parker and Raymond Unwin, was Letchworth Garden City. It is 34 miles away from London. It has an area of about 5,000 acres with 3,000 acres of green belt. It had an agricultural strip at a periphery to check the invasion of urban area, that is the sprawling. It showed Howard's general principles, including the communal ownership of the land and the permanent green belt has been carried through. It was a town of homes and gardens with ample open spaces and a spirited community life. A great attention was paid to the landscaping and planting. Its plan was based on population of 30,000 with living area of 1250 acres and 2,500 acres of rural green belt. The communities range from 12,000 to 18,000 people, small enough which required no vehicular transportation. Industries were connected to the central city by rapid transportation. In 30 years, the city developed with 15,000 population and 150 shops as well as industries. When we discuss about Welwyn Garden City, it was the second garden city founded by Sir Ebenezer Howard and designed by Louis de Soissons in 1920 and was located 20 miles from London. It was a town visually pleasing and was efficient technically and was human in scale. It started with area of 2,400 acres and 40,000 population. It had a parkway almost a mile long central mall. Town laid out along 3-line boulevards with Neo-Georgian town center. Every road had a wide grass verge and in 15 years developed with 10,000 population and 50 shops as well as industries. There was one more city which was in USA, Radburn in New Jersey. Radburn, built in 1920s, was one of the first garden cities in the United States. It emphasized walkability, communal facilities and greenery, settling a trend for modern community oriented planning. Friends, now let us conclude this lesson. The original garden city as a theory and as experiments, whether it was Letchworth and Welwyn Garden City, is a wonderful precedent that can be used in a sustainable approach that addresses a range of issues and also concerns such as housing, governance, the economy, mobility within the cities, the community, agriculture, energy and health. The Wolfson Economics Prize of 2014 and many new garden cities and suburbs projects currently planned in the United Kingdom have demonstrated the resurgence of this model in the planning world, both in terms of theory and practice. As a model, it can underpin the evolution of suburbs in an era of energy transition, since these areas require an exosystemic rather than the sectoral approach to design. Thank you.